to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Racha HaKodash. Double honors unto the apostles, and as a great milestone who do well. Peace, blessing to the saints of Akim, many the elect brethren who pushing this 224 corners of the earth, giving all diligence and the calling and election show. This is your brother Kwana from the Great Millstone Camp Trinidad, coming to do another lesson, Lord willing, to define to the Lord's elect. And this morning, right, while it's coming on the road, having that meditation upon the Lord, right, and thinking about all that is always happening and the prophecies. Yeah, so that so seeing that always happening in the scripture, was on my mind as of yesterday we did a live, right? Not yesterday, before, right? The big brother and a couple of the brothers say locally here in Trinidad, people from Trinidad, and then after seeing the works, right, of the apostles, and they going into giving praises to the name, you know, and this is what is going to keep us, because those who come in within the name comes with a vibration, right, and an onoma, right, in what it represents, and the Lord going to save those who believe in His name, right. So this is the book of Psalm 17 and verses 6. It says, "I have called upon thee, for thou wilt hear me, O power. Incline thy ear unto me, and hear my speech. Show thy marvelous loving kindness, O thou that savest by thy right hand, them which put their trust in thee, from those that rise up against them." And now we in that time, right, where they're going to rise up against the believers in the Lord. In the second address 16, right, and I believe it's around verses 67 around there going up there, it says, and there's going to be great insurrection, right, against those that fear the Lord, because he thinks that the men and them who sign and crying, who giving the correct message, right, they're going to ultimately come against them. Locally here, there have been a series of events, right, with people who speaking out against the system and legislation being put in place, right, which going to come what? Famine of the world, right, and they're going to come at those who speak in thus say the Lord. The scripture says, "He that departed away from iniquity maketh himself a prey." But this is the time, as spoken of in Ecclesiastes, the second chapter, right? The Lord going to fight for thee. It says, "Look at the generation of old. Have any call upon the Lord and was confounded? They was not put to shame," right? So the Lord going to fight for us. Now it's not like in the time of 70 AD. Now there are going to be some of us who are going to be martyrs for the gospel. But this time coming here is we going to get the victory. Apparatus that was part of the Lord elect. But it says one of the key things that the Spirit had me meditate on is verses 8, where it says, "Keep me as the apple of the eye and hide me under the shadow of thy wings." And this is something that me and a brother was sharpening it up to the Spirit, right? And one of the things is the Lord say, ask, right? And ye shall receive. And one of the things that we should be asking for is to be part of the Lord elect, so that the Lord could keep us, as the apple of his eye. The Baba, when you go into the world, it goes into Baba, right? The Baba of the Lord's eye. We being those men whom the Lord, looking upon while we living in this wicked world, striving to do right, right? Because look at what is happening. What is happening in the four corners of the earth is the things that the Lord have put within our mouths is coming to pass. It's coming to pass. Thus say Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. It's coming to pass, right? So I just want to look up the word "me" as the apple, right? It comes from the Strong's definition, right? It says the little man of the eye, the ball hence the middle, right? The apple of the eye, right? Just bear with me a second. I need to just switch over to something. I want to get our next app open here. All right, just wanted to get this app open here. Salakia. Let's break my quick second here. Let me go back to Psalm 17. All right, to order. Right, so Psalm 17 and reading over verses 8. It says, keep me as the apple of thy eye and hide me under the shadow of thy wings. And that is ultimately what is going to come, right? To those who keep the doctrine pure and to those who believe in the Lord, right? Because the name is being glorified. The vibration of what we came saying, thus said Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, is coming to pass. We in that time. We in that time prophetically, right? That the American reserve of oil have been the lowest, I believe, since 1983. The stock markets are all red line, right? That is a crumbling of the economy. That is a inflation. Revelation 6, right? A barley, a barley a week for a penny. Heavy inflation. As me and my brother was chopping it up, right? Through the spirit that is happening over there in America right now, where you're paying 3 times the amount, right? 3 times the amount for the value of things that you used to pay for once. So now you're paying 3 times. So this is what they call inflation, and it's going to crumble down to hyperinflation, right? The meeting that was supposed to take place concerning the Strait of Hormuz was postponed, and the Strait of Hormuz is still closed. It's still closed. This is the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai turning it up. We in that time. Let's get a precept here. This is the book of Ezekiel, right? And this is why we seeking that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai keep us as the apple of his eye, as men that were sighing and crying, for the abomination that be. You understand? And as the scripture said, Lord, when thy hand is lifted up, they shall not see, but he says they shall see. So they're going to really see. They're going to experience the things that is going to take place upon the earth that we have been speaking about for so many years. Entering into the apostles' labors. You understand? Getting this operation going and following in that spirit and speaking about the prophecies, prophetic things that now we are experiencing that the Bible have been speaking about for ages. It's happening now, right? This is Ezekiel chapter 22, all right? So like Ezekiel chapter 12 and verses 22. And it reads, it says, Son of man, what is that proverb that you have in the land of Israel, saying the days are prolonged, right? And I'm going to read this in the NLT version also. It says, the days are prolonged and every vision faileth, right? It says, tell them therefore, thus saith Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakah HaKodash, I will make this proverb to cease, and they shall no more use it as a proverb in Israel, but say unto them, the days are at hand. The days are at hand. You see now the digital infrastructure is being pushed heavily. And this is what all system and government structures is speaking about, right? Because there's a great collapse in the dollar coming. The stock markets are red, right? They had red. That says a lot, right? You're paying 3 times the amount for the same amount of fuel you used to pay for. So I'll just use that illustration in where I live. To fill my vehicle with fuel, it takes $350 TT to get about 50 something liters of gas. So now 3 times the amount would come up to 350 and 350, that's 700, that's 1050. I would have to be paying 3 times the amount, right? Right now, this is what happening in America. I would have to be paying 1050 for the same 50 liters, right? This is what you're seeing happening, and these is things that we have been speaking about, that, hey, famine going to come, inflation going to come, because this is a great crash. And the Lord did said right? The Lord did said in the book of Isaiah, the 19th chapter, he did said that he's going to set up a cruel Lord, right? 5 minutes before the meeting that was supposed to take place between Iran and America, right, concerning the Strait of Hormuz and what they're going to do moving forward, right? It came to an end. He said, I will just bomb up everything in the 5 minutes before that. This is what Donald Trump said. But again, the scripture said, and I believe it's in Proverbs, the 21st chapter, it says, the king's heart is in the hands of the Lord. It's not peace. We're in the time of war. Ecclesiastes, the third chapter, speaks about that. We are in the time of war. We are in the time of Jacob trouble. We are in the time where the RFID microchip and these things going to be made mandatory. It's coming. It's coming down the hatch on a global scale, right? There was an article that I would have liked to share, right, where Barbados and all to have a system put in place that you do not need a bank account, right, to transfer money or to do business transaction when concerning the currency, and it's all digital. You understand? It's all digital. I believe the abbreviation for it is BIN, if I'm not mistaken, right? But going back to this scripture here in Ezekiel chapter 12 and verses 23, and I'm going to read it in the NLT, it says, tell the people, this is what the sovereign Lord says. And this is who we coming. This is who we coming in. This is the name that we come. We're coming in this vibration, right? Because we publish in the scripture says in Ecclesiastes, is in Sirach or Ecclesiastes, because the scripture says that the Lord have raised up prophets that have been in his name. So this is the God that said that this is the thing that's going to happen. So this is the importance of publishing. Who said it? You understand? Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai said it. The sovereign Lord, the Lord that rules entirely, the omnipotent Lord, the omnipotent Lord. Says Psalm Ezekiel 12 verse 23 says, tell the people, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I will put an end to this proverb. And this is what you people are going to experience, the end of this proverb, the end of no more prolonging. And now it's action time. It's action time. Very soon, the prophets wouldn't be out in the highways and byways. Because there's a saying, right? When the test is going on, the teachers are silent. The teachers are silent. So what you gonna do, right? And this is the reason why the Spirit had me meditate on Psalm 17 this morning on my journey down the road. Within my thoughts, keep me as the apple of thy eye, because some rough, bad, ill times, right, that we are about to experience in this world. The scripture said in Daniel, the 12th chapter, if I could just plug that in, Daniel, the 12th chapter, and verses 1, right? And I read this in the NLT. It says, and at that time, Michael the archangel, who stand guard over your nation, the nation of Israel, will arise. Then there will be a time of anguish greater than any since nations first came into existence. But at that time, right? At that time, those who have put their trust in the Lord, those who have published the name of the Lord, right? Those who have kept the doctrine pure, this is what is going to happen. But at that time, every one of your people whose name is written in the book will be rescued. They will be saved, right? Those whose names are written in the Lamb Book of Life, they're going to speak, thus saith Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. They're not going to deviate. They're not going to go aside. They're not going to go to the left, nor to the right. They're going to stay on the path. So going back to the book of Ezekiel, Ezekiel 12 and 22, so like 23 in the NLT, it reads, it says, tell the people, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I will put an end to this proverb, and you will soon stop quoting it. Now give them this new proverb to replace the old one. The time has come. This is the new proverb, right? This is the new proverb. A proverb is a wise saying, And this is a wise saying, because this is what the Lord have said for us to come to say, because this is what he's going to do. The Lord is going to bring an end to this world, right? And he have sent forth his prophets to condemn this world. And this world is condemned. This world is marked for judgment. This world have been found weighed in the balance, right? Seeing all that is happening right now, the true Lord, he's doing a perfect job to the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. This is the lowest that the reserve oil have been for since 1917. Let's see if I could just fact check this here real quick, but see how best I could operate this split screen. Okay, so right, I'm gonna just get this information out. Let's give me a quick second here. All right, is this the lowest? Phone sticking on all to this. The oil. Is this the lowest? The oil reserve. Give me a second here. Is asking the question here. Waiting for it to come up. Right. Right. So in 1983, right, when the reserve was still being filled for the first time, flowing following its creation in 1975. So 1983 was a time where it had a crucial, you understand, the stockpile or the reserve was touched. And right now that it are the lowest. And right now what they are about to implement, right, that was shared with us from our brother, that they have thoughts of bringing a legislation to hide the stock market from the people. You understand? To hide the stock market from the people because they don't want the people to go into terror and fear. Well, guess what? The people are already there. They are already there, and it's gonna wax worse. A lot of them gonna feel the brunt, right? A lot of them gonna be on the breadline, right? Something called there's a term or event that took place in Ukraine called the Holodomor famine, and it was a forced famine upon the land, right? To ultimately usher in what they would like to do. And this is what it is. But at the end of the day, what could the prophets of the Lord say is that Esau no more holds the narrative of what's taking place. Who does is the Lord and the prophets, right? And the prophets is saying that Yahushua is on his return, right? And before Yahushua return, there's a series of events that is going to take place. And now we are in that series of events where you're going to see invading one another for the lack of bread, right? Recently, I spoke to one of my siblings who out there in Canada, and his remark to me was, "Boy, brother, boy, right now, them all the crops that I'm getting frost burned, boy, and the line of work they do, they work mass production, export into the world, and Canada is one of the places that produce a high level of food, right? That is where the GDP really based upon the you understand? So when he told me that, and he was like, real workers going home, you know, you know that the time getting ready to enter in. It's getting ready to enter in. This is what the Lord have in store. You understand? So the Lord said, well, tell them this new proverb. And this new proverb, going back to that scripture, I wanna get back that scripture here. Just bear my second now. Let's learning to navigate through this here. Is what we have been saying for years. That famine is going to come. Jacob trouble, right? And then they're going to usher in the RFID microchip. The platform is already there. All nations is already speaking it, right? The prime minister of this country, locally here, she in that spirit of Moody, right? The Indian president or prime minister, that they have no dealings with the public. You understand? Straight draconian Titarian rule. So Ezekiel 12 and verses 23 in the NLT, it says, tell the people, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I will put an end to this proverb, and you will soon stop quoting it. Now give them this new proverb to replace the old one. The time has come for every prophecy to be fulfilled. The time has come, right? The time has come for every prophecy to be fulfilled. This is the time. And let's go to the book of Ecclesiastes, as the scripture now says, the time has come in the NLT, right? Ecclesiastes chapter 3, and the heading of this chapter, right, is a time for everything. So this is the proverb that the Lord is saying to tell these people. The time has come, right, for every prophecy to be fulfilled. So this is Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1. It says, to everything there is a season, right? To everything there is a season. And there is a season where judgment is going to rain down, right? There is a season where judgment is going to rain down. And this is the season that we are in. We are in that season, right? I believe that was precept in Amos, right? Amos 5:24. It says, but let judgment run down as waters, and righteousness as a mighty stream. So let judgment run down as waters, right? Because prophecies also entails judgment. You understand? It entails judgment. So going back to Ecclesiastes, the third chapter, and the first verse, it says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven, right? It says, a time to be born and a time to die. And America was born, and now their life is coming to an end. You understand? They were, and now they're going to not. Thus say Jehovah Hashem Yahushai. And there is no gain around that. That is what the sovereign Lord have in store for Babylon. So he says, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. And notice something, that you had a beginning. There's how the scripture labeling it out. A beginning and an end, a beginning and an end, a beginning and an end. And this is what, Daniel also saw, right? The vision that the Lord allowed Daniel to see, right? Or the dream that Nebuchadnezzar, you understand? That was interpreted by Daniel, the beginning and the end. But one of the things is that when you reach verses 44 in Daniel chapter 2, the dream that he broke down for Nebuchadnezzar, when you reach verses 44, right? It is said that there's going to be a kingdom that shall not be left to another people, right? There's going to be a kingdom that's not going to be left to another people. So as we go into these scriptures, say a time to born, a time to die, right? You can see this apply heavily to these heathens and their rulership, and even us in this mortal body. But on a wider sense, this is the end of their reign. There's not going to be another heathen nation that's going to be able to rise up after this merry-go-round here. So it says a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, and a time to build up, a time to weep, and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance. Right? A time to mourn. I know these people are going to mourn. They're going to lament. Right? It says a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. And as you can see right now, scripture even speaks about in Matthew the 24th chapter, right? And I believe it's verses 14 or verses 12. It says, because iniquity shall abound, right? The hearts of many going to wax cold, right? So there's no more embracing, no more compassion, right? And when you're going to the word cold, I believe it goes into psychotic. You understand? People are going to be doing crazy things. And this is what we're seeing right now. Crazy things is happening around the world. Around the world. Not just locally here in our country, in Trinidad, right? But around the world. As the scripture says, who have eyes to see will see. But who have ears to hear will hear. It says, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rent and a time to show it, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. And very soon, the speaking is going to come to an end and there's going to be silence, right? Because when the exam is happening, the teachers don't speak. The teachers don't speak. So, our is that, we want to be part of the Lord elect, Lord willing, and that He keep us as the apple of His eye, you know. So hopefully this lesson was edifying to the elect of the nation of Israel. Want to give all praises and all glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakah Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace, blessing to the sincere Akim. Many from the Great Millstone Camp. Signing out, saying Shalom to the elect.